bringing us some great content. We really wanted to start this podcast as a platform to talk about some of the latest news in sports and bring on some really cool guests and something we've been wanting to do for some time now. And so we're really looking forward to introducing our first guest today. So Ursula, how do you feel about our first guest?
Man, I'm really excited. This is something like you mentioned, right? We wanted to kind of have this platform to talk about, sports and really hot topics in the sports industry. So I'm really excited to have this guest hop on with us and kind of talk about, some of his personal experiences. So I think it's going to be a really good show, and hopefully all of our listeners can really get to know this amazing guest that we have.
Yeah, so our first guest, let me give you a little introduction of him. He is an NBA skills developer. He's worked with players such as Danuel House, Gerald Green, Isaiah Hardenstein, just a few names. His name is Kenny Ellis, and here's a little introduction video we have of his training. So that was a little intro to Kenny Ellis, and here he is. How you doing, Kenny?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
We're good. Thanks for coming on. So we got some good questions lined up for you. So the first one, let's start.
Cool. What's up, Kenny? How are you?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
Good. Again, just kind of wanted to thank you for hopping on. I know it's a little bit short notice, and you're pretty busy with some of your training sessions, but yeah. So I guess we can kind of just hop in right into it. So I guess what we wanted to know, and I'm sure all the listeners were really excited to kind of hear about, what got you into training players and kind of what inspired you, and if you can kind of tell us a little bit about your backstory and kind of how you got to where you did. I think that's something we all want to kind of know about.
Yeah. So I had been playing basketball since I was 2. My dad kind of put the basketball in my hands at an early age. So I played growing up, and I did the whole AAU and traveling and so forth and so forth. Just to give a little background, freshman year of high school, I played at a school called Westville High School out here in Houston in the Spring area. And then I transferred to a private school in Cyprus for my last 3 years. My junior year, we was ranked as high as number 3 in the country.
Nice.
The two schools that was above us was number 1 at that time was led by Michael Beasley, Oak Hill Academy. And then the number 2 school at the time was the school that I had transferred from, Westfield High School. So I did that. We won 3 state championships. What a lot of people don't know is I had graduated high school at 5'5", 106 pounds.
Whoa.
So you can only imagine it was always like an uphill battle. So with that, I came out of high school, no college offers. I was recruited my senior year. Funny story real quick. I was recruited my senior year by LSU. It was early in the season. They had came to our first tournament. The recruiting coach at the time, who obviously didn't do his homework, he thought that I was a freshman. So that's why he had recruited me. So he had been following me like throughout the summer, because I had been playing like with the 17 and under group since I was a freshman. So he had been kind of following me, and he finally came up to me. So he was asking me how I was doing, so forth and so forth. Long story short, he asked me if I was a freshman, and I had told him no. I'm a senior. And then right then and there, he said, "Have a nice day." He walked away. And as he's walking out the door, you can see him crossing my name off his list.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
That's crazy, man.
So that's a little funny story. But so high school, I didn't have any college offers. I ended up getting a call from an NAIA school, Missouri Valley College. They wanted to revamp their track and cross country program. So I was really good in cross country and track. Never really practiced, but I was really gifted.
Oh yeah, some technical difficulties.
Cool. Yeah, let's see if we can get Kenny back on.
But yeah, in the meantime, we can talk a little bit of what we know about Kenny so far. Obviously, he just told us he's 5'5" coming out of high school. I guess he's starting to come back. Yeah, never mind, he's back. Oh yeah, so you were 5'5" coming out of high school, but you were also ranked, correct?
No. I was 5'5" coming out of high school, but so I had no college offers, but I was really good in track. I was really good in track. So I had college offers in track, but I didn't want to do it. It wasn't a preference. But with that happening, at NAIA school, Missouri Valley College, had contacted me and they wanted me to do track and cross country, kind of revamp their program. So with that, they said, look, if you come here and you do your track and cross country here, we'll guarantee you a spot on the basketball team. So I did that. After that, college, Arkansas Baptist College. I went there for a year. The assistant coach that was there at the time was.
He's gonna be coming in and out due to he's out right now, so his Wi-Fi probably messing up. But yeah, so he was a basketball player, but turned into a trainer, and he was 5'5" coming out of high school. Obviously had a battle coming in. So
let's try one more time.
Let's try.
What was the last part?
So yeah, there's another question.
Yeah. So yeah, the last part was, again, kind of like what kind of inspired you to kind of get into training and how that transition happened from you playing basketball to kind of getting into that whole training situation, and then kind of how are you just motivated to doing what you're doing right now?
So I knew after I would get finished playing that I would either coach or I would train. So yeah, so I did the college thing, and I had I went to three colleges in 3 years. My first
Nice.
school was the NAIA. My second school was a junior college, Arkansas Baptist College. Corliss Williamson, who played in the NBA for about 12 years, was the assistant coach. And then my last year was at the University of Hartford, which was a small Division I America East Conference. So I left after my junior year because I had a contract to go play in Thailand. So I played in. So I had a contract to play in Bangkok, Thailand. I ended up tearing my meniscus.
That's crazy. It's crazy.
In the process of tearing my meniscus, I was rebuilding my knee. It was a kid who was watching me for like 2 weeks. He ended up telling his mom that he wanted me to train him. He liked what I was doing. So I started to, so his mom came up to me, long story short, and she was like, hey, can you train my son? I want to get him out the house. And I was like, well, I've never trained anybody before.
Right.
So she was like, just do it. I'll pay you for it. So I'm fresh out of college. I'm waiting for my next contract after I tore my meniscus. So I was like, cool. So I started training him a little bit just to kind of like get a feel of what it is to train.
Right.
Wasn't really taking it too serious at the time. A little bit after that, a friend of mine named Ronnie Dyer, he was really big into social media. And this is where everything starts. So he was telling me to make an Instagram account. I wasn't really big into social media, so I didn't do it for about 3 months. And he like tricked me into doing it. He was like, "Hey, do it. Let's have a competition. Let's see who can get the most followers, who can get the most likes."
Smart.
So I was like, whatever, stupid. So I was like, cool. So I started doing it. That following year, if you can remember, videos started to come into play. 10-second videos. So I kind of started doing that at the time. I started doing 10-second videos, and I would just kind of post like kind of workouts I would do, little snippets of it. And then somebody had showed me this guy who was a big time trainer in Los Angeles. Yeah, like at the time I think he had like 400,000 followers. So what I would do was I would tag him all the time in every video.
Smart.
Over the process of that, I started gaining followers, and I started gaining like relevant names. And one of the relevant names was Anthony Davis.
Nice. Yeah, crazy.
So I had no clue that he was following me. I had just I so happened to go back to a post. I was looking at who liked my stuff, and he had liked it. Saw he was following me, so I started following him. So we would kind of chit chat here and there through DMs. And then another guy was Isaiah Cannon, which, as the story goes on, you'll see he was the guy who kind of got everything started. So 2015, I moved to Los Angeles off the limb. The guy who I kept tagging was like, hey, you should move to LA. So I moved to LA. I stayed with him at his apartment. I was only supposed to be there for like 3 months interning. We ended up partnering, and I stayed for the rest of 2015. Came back home 2016, and I started doing my own thing. That summer of 2016, Isaiah had just finished his rookie contract. We had ran into each other up at U of H, got to talking, and then I started training him.
Yeah, that's nice.
So yeah, so I did that, and then from there it just kind of took off. It took off really fast. I guess you could say the power of social media.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. No, definitely. And I mean, it really seems like, from when you had your injury, from that mother coming up to you, everything kind of just fell in place, right? Like you never were, I guess your intention wasn't to start training, and it kind of just happened for you, which is, I mean, that's something that's very cool. And it seems like you're very passionate about that. But yeah, to kind of touch base on that injury you kind of talked about, how did that kind of play an impact on your career? You were going from, hopefully playing overseas in Thailand to now, training players. But how did that injury kind of take a toll on you and your career?
Because the type of injury it was, I won't say some injuries aren't bad, but they're not as bad as others. Right. So I just had a meniscus tear in like and damage to my cartilage. So my process in coming back wasn't going to be as long as somebody who has an ACL or MCL tear or something like that. So I think the only thing it really did was it helped me not be so focused on just my first career, but my second career.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So in that process, I had to really start thinking about, well, what do I want to do afterwards? And I had coached right after college. I had went back to the private school, and I had coached the middle school team. It was only for like a month and a half, but it felt like it was like 6 to 7 months.
Yeah.
I felt like I was getting gray hair, so I was like, I would never coach again. I would never coach again. So that's how I kind of started to get into the training thing and started kind of taking it more serious after the injury. And then I definitely had to take it serious once I had my second injury. So I had another contract to play in Dubai. Same scenario happened. Right before it's time to leave, I have a bucket handle meniscus tear in the other knee. So I started taking it more serious, and as I take it more serious, the success rate starts to heighten every time.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, and it's really glad to hear that, you didn't kind of step away from basketball and you kind of use training as an aspect to kind of stay close to the sport that you love, which sounds amazing. Cool. Yeah, so I guess now kind of transitioning into stuff that are more current times, with everything going on, with the coronavirus and whatnot, and, a lot of people being quarantined. How have your players kind of adjusted to that situation, and kind of how do you feel the training has been ever since, we've kind of been stuck at home and not been able to get out?
Yeah, I think for everybody, it's been a shock, right? So early on, people were scared to leave the house and stuff, and still even now, people are scared to leave the house. But for us, it kind of after the first kind of wave, I guess like a week or so. For us, it was just like summer started early for us.
Right.
So, of course, we took the precautions with making sure everything's sanitized, everybody has washed hands, gloves, masks, etc. The whole 9 yards, making sure it's not a lot of people that comes to the gym, making it a private location. But then the process, it's basically just been summer has came early, came early in that time. So the transition really wasn't, for us, it wasn't really that hard.
Cool. Yeah, no, definitely. But I mean, I guess you could kind of see this as a good thing in terms of, training starting early, hopefully, for like the NBA restart coming up. So I guess that's definitely something cool. Also,
Yeah, so another thing we were wondering, like, so you train a lot of players, and but there's always different workouts you gotta do. So what kind of what does your training consist of? From player to player, is it like how different is it from, let's say you train with Daniel House, then you train with Isaiah Cannon? How different is it from each player, and how important is that?
Yeah, for sure. So like, I guess early on when I first started, when I was in LA, I thought every.
is he muted?
Can y'all hear me?
Oh, no,
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah.
yeah, we're good now.
Yeah, my bad. No, I had got a phone call. I think when I first started in LA, I thought every training was the same. As I started to get more consistent in training, I started to realize that you can't treat everybody the same. And I guess it's a testament to kind of like playing wise too. So anybody who's played any type of sport, or even like you've had a job, I guess sports wise for a coach, if a coach can talk to one player a certain way and get a result, but can't talk to another player the same way and get that same result all the time.
Right, 100%.
So it's kind of the same exact thing. So early on, like Seth Curry, DeMar DeRozan, Avery Bradley was main guys that were being trained. All of them obviously all have different types of games. So you have to, for me, train everybody differently. So my approach from Isaiah Cannon to Danuel House is going to be totally different because their responsibilities that teams expect are going to be totally different.
Mhm. Yeah, makes sense. So, like you said, you train all these big name players, but and I see on your Instagram bio you said that Daniel House is your blueprint. What do you mean by that?
So Daniel's different from everybody else. Like early on, like with the Demars, the Averys, the Seths, they already had their own name, right?
Hmm.
When I got Daniel had already finished his rookie year with the Wizards. And anybody who follows basketball knows he was on his contract and they cut him in March, right before
Yeah.
it was time for playoffs and stuff like that. So I got him that summer, and so he was just raw talent. He came into the league undrafted, blue collar guy. So he was kind of what I would consider my own 2K player. I could
Yeah.
just do whatever I want to do. So I had to envision what I wanted him to be, but also what teams was going to be looking for right away.
Hmm.
And from there we just kind of put everything into play, and just seeing how it played out.
So, have you seen it? How have you seen it progress through this hiatus? With the NBA being gone, and you're just in quarantine. You have training sessions 1-on-1. How have you seen it progress through this time?
I mean, the progression has been the same. Um, like I said, for us, it's just like summer has came early, so we made the minor adjustments, but at the end of the day, I think everything pretty much we treat it as if it's the same.
Sounds good. That sounds good. Ersan, go ahead and.
Cool. Yeah. So I mean, no, we definitely love to kind of hear about the whole aspect of training players differently, and then like you mentioned, the whole kind of us being in quarantine has kind of given you a little head start into summer coming early. But I guess I wanted to kind of transition into something a little bit different now. Um, as I'm sure the whole Black Lives Matter movement. I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that, and how has that affected some of your players in training, and has that affected any of your players? Because we saw that like Kyrie Irving, he thinks that the NBA restart should be taken away just to kind of raise that awareness. But do you think that like what are your thoughts on that? Do you think the NBA is going in that right direction by restarting, or what's your thoughts on that?
Um, for me, I think so. I look at everything from all perspectives. So I don't know if it's a right or wrong answer. You can say they shouldn't restart, but some people would say you should restart, because you can use the opportunity of playing, use that platform to get your message out more. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I think it just depends from person to person. I don't think it's a right or wrong. I think it's just the way in which you handle it makes it if it's right or wrong, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, yeah, that makes sense. So, like, how do you plan on? Well, let's say the NBA does restart. Everything goes as planned. Um, how would you raise awareness during that NBA season? If you were to, like, what are some things you might do to raise awareness for the Black Lives Matter movement? And if you give us like a little insight of what you think could help, and what the players you've trained, such as House and Green, what have they like thought of doing during the season to kind of raise
I mean,
awareness?
well, Gerald, for instance, for those who follow Gerald actually went out and he did the whole riot thing. He did the whole riot thing, and like I said, there's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong. Like everybody deals with situations differently. I mean, a good way is using your platforms and what you have, which is social media. You can always use your social media. Um, I guess when given a chance, when everything revamps and everything, when given a chance, even with interviews, you know what I'm saying, you can say something. And you can even say stuff silently, little things like a lot of people wear wristbands and stuff like that with messages on them, or you write on your shoe, just different things that you can do to, I guess, to speak your piece.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, like, using your platform to, that's something that LeBron's been doing, for a long time. Using the platform to kind of raise awareness and, you know, and hopefully, that kind of, brings, maybe some change to society. So, I just wanted to ask some other questions about, how you've been training for a long time now, and I just wanted to ask, what has been your most memorable moment training?
Mm, I think there's been a memorable moment with everybody. I mean, I guess like from the start, the first guy that I helped work with was Seth Curry. So that's a memorable moment to begin with. Is Seth Curry, and then from there, DeMar DeRozan. At the time, DeMar DeRozan was already established in the league at that time. I mean, you can even go down the line. Avery Bradley. Avery Bradley had played on some really good teams for Boston at that time, and then even moving then with Isaiah, with Cannon. Cannon was just kind of scratching the surface on his own. So just having that first person that I can call my own, seeing the things that we actually work on, working games and stuff like that. That's a great moment. And then even take it further with Daniel, just being able to craft everything, kind of from the beginning of his NBA career, I would say. Makes you know my time with him memorable as well. I don't think there's really one. I think there's so many that you can't dumb it down to just one great memory.
So, you just said, you have a lot of, memorable moments. Like, you can't really choose one, but just another question I wanted the answer to, what's the funniest moment you've had, training with somebody, like something that you just remember that was just hilarious. You just had to, bring it up.
Uh, Funniest moments. Isaiah, he's a character. Um, Anybody who's not even if you're like close to him, but like even like, um, you've seen him up at the pro runs at Fundy.
Yeah,
He's just a character, and he's always in his own world. So, just watching him in the process of being able to go all out, work hard, but have a good time doing it. I think with him, it's definitely he keeps it comical, I guess I would say.
that's cool. Yeah, that's good. Having fun at, doing your job. And it's really important, to have a passion for what you're doing, when to work hard and, be focused and, still have fun at the same time. It's good. So, I mean, that's kind of all the questions we had for you today. I just want to thank you for coming on. It's a pleasure having you on here.
For
Uh,
sure.
so, yeah, thanks so much. If Ersan, you want to say something, or
No,
No
cool. I mean,
problem.
I guess to kind of wrap things up. But again, like I also mentioned, we really did want to thank you for hopping on and taking time out of your day to kind of hop on with us. You're our first guest, so it really does mean a lot to us. But yeah, I also did want to ask you one thing before we kind of wrapped up.
For sure.
You've trained with Daniel House and Gerald Green. So if they were to play 1-on-1, who do you think would win? I don't know. It's something I just kind of
Well,
thought.
it's crazy. They actually, so Gerald early on when he first was working out, he would work out with Daniel, and then we kind of branched off because he needed to work on other things. He started working out by himself, but early on when they would work out together, they would play ones. We call them ones. They would play 1-on-1. So, um, let's just say that when you put two pit bulls in the ring together, uh, I mean, you can only imagine the results. But it definitely was always competitive for sure. Always was competitive. And it always was. It's always a joy to watch. But they both will win. They both will win. It was never like one was just like killing the other one.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
they both will win.
Cool.
But
No,
it-
that's good. Yeah, I'm sorry.
But if you had to choose one, who would it be?
If my life was on the line and I had to choose one, I would probably do a coin flip. You can't go
Coin
wrong with
flip.
either one.
Nice.
I probably do a coin
See,
flip.
yeah, that's cool. That's cool, man. It's all good. Yeah, we got someone commented. Jay commented house. So yeah,
Sure.
that's
No,
cool.
but, I appreciate you guys for having me on. Next time we'll make sure that I'm in a more
No, you're good. You're good.
dynamic place, so we won't have cutouts. But definitely for sure, once y'all get more guys in, I definitely would like to do a part 2, and then even have you guys come to some of the private workouts and stuff like that for sure.
Cool.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
no,
Thank
for
you,
sure.
man.
Really looking forward to it, and kind of again, thank you just one more time for hopping on such short notice. And yeah, I mean, thank you. Have a good one, and
All right, y'all too. Y'all be safe.
you too.
You too, man. Be safe.
All right.
See ya. So that wraps up kind of our first episode, with our guest. If we want to thank Kenny a lot for coming on. We got a lot of good content coming soon. We also might have a giveaway coming up, so stay tuned for that. We'd love for you to follow our Twitch at the DimeTime Podcast. We got our YouTube channel, the DimeTime Show, and we follow us on Twitter, the DimeTime Show also. And just thanks for tuning in. We got a lot of cool guests coming, next week and the week after. So, and a lot of news will be coming out. And just stay tuned. If there's someone would like to add anything. So
No, you pretty much covered it all, man. Yeah, but again, thank you guys for tuning in. And make sure you guys subscribe to all of our media outlets, and tune in next Friday at 12 o'clock, and you guys will see who our next couple of guests are. But yeah, I think that wraps it up. So we'll see you guys next week.
Yep, and the guest will be released on Monday on Twitter. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for tuning in, and y'all have a good one.